Although acting edgy on social media can bring attention and sometimes even a lot of money, more people are starting to realize that the payoff does not always last. The shock factor might pull in views for a while, but once that image starts working against you, the crash can be ugly. And in 2026, barely anyone seems to understand that lesson better than Master Oogway, because he somehow went from having millions of subscribers and billions of views to crying on Twitter and begging Mr. Beast to help him get unbanned from YouTube. That is not just a setback. That is a full-on fumble in front of the whole internet. What makes his rise even wilder is that it started in a way that was pretty different from most creators. A lot of people come up through pranks, gaming, or reaction clips, but Master Uguay first got noticed by doing funny voice impressions of Master Oogway from Kung Fu Panda. That was the gimmick, that was the hook, and that is exactly where his username came from. His content was clearly aimed at a younger audience too, because the whole style was built around quick jokes, silly delivery, and clips that were easy to share. Whether everyone found it funny did not really matter, because the people watching it definitely did, and that is what pushed everything forward. He was posting a lot on TikTok using that Master Oogway voice, and before long the numbers started going crazy, the views kept climbing, the followers kept coming in, and what looked like a simple joke account started turning into a real content machine. Once he saw that kind of motion, he started moving like somebody who knew he had something hot. He did not stay in one lane either. He began expanding fast, building out more accounts, and trying different styles of content so he could stay all over people's feeds at once. That was the play, and for a while, it looked like it was working perfectly. Some of the videos were reactions, some were voiceovers, some leaned into these weird fantasy-type jokes about men that had people either laughing or just sitting there confused. It was one of those internet lanes where even if you personally did not get the joke, the audience clearly did. And online, that is really all that matters. If you went into his comment sections, you would see viewers memeing with him, backing him up, and saying stuff like, "Can I join Master?"
Okay, can somebody explain me what mod means?
What's up, YouTube? Today I spoke to my parents and they told me a story. They told me a story about my grandparents. Turns out, my great-great-great-great-great-grandparents were slaves during the Ottoman Empire. Now, I've been wondering what makes a person get the permission to say the N-word. Because I hear Mexican people say the N-word, and I hear black people say the N-word, and many other races as well. I'm gonna say it for the first time in my life properly.
That kind of response told the whole story. He had found a crowd that understood his style, and he knew exactly how to keep feeding them more. Because he was posting so consistently, sometimes multiple times in a single day, the growth started looking unstoppable. Eventually, he hit 1 million followers, and that was only one part of the bigger picture. This was not just happening on TikTok, it was happening on YouTube too. Master Oogway was basically flooding the algorithm from every angle, running multiple pages across both platforms and making it all look easy. He also came up at the right moment. Around that time, the Chad face meme was blowing up everywhere, and it became tied to the whole idea of having a bold or based opinion. That trend lined up perfectly with the type of content he was pushing, so he slid right into that wave and rode it hard while the internet was eating it up. So at that point, all Master Oogway really had to do was keep spamming that Chad face on other people's videos, and the views would keep rolling in every single day. It was a very easy formula, and for a while it worked like crazy. The problem was that this kind of content was extremely low effort, and low effort reaction clips usually do not build the kind of audience that sticks around for years. They can get quick numbers, but they rarely create loyalty. If he wanted to stay relevant long term, he needed to evolve past that and give people a reason to care about more than just a meme on a screen. And to be fair, it looked like he understood that. You could see him still leaning hard on the Chad face trend, but once you kept scrolling through his page, it was obvious he was also experimenting with different types of content. He was trying to widen his lane and figure out what else could pull attention. The issue was that some of the stuff he started testing felt less creative and more reckless. Instead of building a stronger identity, he began drifting toward edgy material that was clearly designed to get a reaction, even if that reaction came from people being uncomfortable or upset. A lot of those clips crossed into jokes about race, and even when they were framed as humor, they still rubbed people the wrong way. One example involved a slavery reference tied to a money joke, and another clip revolved around gathering black people in one place. Whether he meant it as shock humor or not, the bigger issue was how calculated it felt. The pattern made it seem like he was learning that the more controversial the joke, the more attention it pulled. That is where things started to shift, because it no longer looked like random bad judgment. It started looking like a strategy built around pushing sensitive topics just far enough to go viral. And that strategy clearly performed. If you compare the videos built around racial jokes to the more normal posts around them, those clips often did much bigger numbers. That is the ugly truth about dark humor online. It grabs attention fast, it sticks in people's heads, and from a pure performance angle, it can do way better than generic reaction content. Master Oogway seemed to notice that very quickly, and once he did, he kept moving further in that direction. With each new post, the line got pushed a little more, and the jokes started feeling less like random internet chaos and more like bait made to trigger outrage on purpose. Eventually, TikTok responded by banning his main account, which had around 2.7 million followers. That was a major hit, but it did not completely wipe him out. Like I said earlier, he had already built a network of backup accounts, side pages, and extra channels, so he was still in a position to recover. Losing the main page was bad, but because he had spread himself across so many accounts, he still had a way to keep his name alive and stay in the algorithm.
This is day 3 of donating 1 cent to Palestine for every follower I gain. Yesterday I lost 5k followers.
Yo, they're making you words, you know.
Mr. Bombastic.
Accusing me of this is a serious crime. I could genuinely sue you guys and ruin your life for saying this. But I understand you guys are kids, so I don't really. But watch out what you're saying.
And normally, when someone gets an account banned, especially one with 2.7 million followers, you would expect that to be the wake-up call. Most people would step back, look at what went wrong, and stop playing with the same fire, but that is not what Master Uguay did. Instead of slowing down, he pushed even harder into shock content. The jokes got darker, the posts got more reckless, and the whole thing started looking like someone chasing attention, without caring what it cost. Rather than learning from the ban, he treated it like a challenge and kept trying to top himself in the worst way possible. At that point, it was pretty clear that he was addicted to shock value. The pattern was not subtle anymore. He kept leaning into material that was meant to offend, not because it added anything smart or original, but because he knew outrage gets clicks. And once a creator starts believing that every view is a good view, that mindset can turn ugly fast. That is exactly what happened here. He kept pushing the envelope further and further, almost like he believed there was no line he could cross that would really matter as long as people kept watching. Then came the moment that completely blew up in his face. He released a song built around extremist imagery and hateful themes, and that track ended up defining his image in the worst possible way. It did not make him look bold. It did not make him look clever. It made him look like somebody willing to say or promote almost anything just to force a viral reaction. That is the point where the edgy creator label stopped sounding like internet branding and started sounding like a full description of his entire playbook. The backlash was immediate, and it was coming from all sides. People across different platforms started calling it out, mocking it, and dragging him hard for how desperate and tasteless it looked. Reddit threads popped up, tearing the whole thing apart, and the response was not mixed at all. People were not confused about whether he had gone too far. To a huge part of the internet, he absolutely had. And just a few days later, the consequences hit in a massive way. His YouTube channel was terminated, and with it, he lost more than 7 million subscribers and over 500 million monthly views. That is not a minor setback. That is the kind of collapse that wipes out years of momentum almost overnight. After that, he jumped on Twitter and tried to get sympathy by posting a message about the situation, hoping people would feel sorry for him after everything had already blown up. After losing his channel, Master Uguay went on Twitter and posted a message saying that his YouTube account with 7 million subscribers and 500 million monthly views was gone because a group of people had allegedly mass reported him to stack guideline strikes. He framed it like the platform had turned its back on a creator who had spent 4 years helping it grow. From his point of view, he was treated unfairly and thrown away after bringing in huge numbers. So clearly, he was angry, bitter, and trying to make the situation look like a betrayal instead of a consequence. But what happened next was probably not what he expected. Usually when creators post public complaints like that, they get a flood of sympathy. Fans rush in, people blame the platform, and the creator gets painted like a victim of unfair moderation. In Master Oogway's case, it went the complete other way. A lot of people were openly happy that he had been banned, and instead of rallying behind him, they started clowning him right under his own post. That reaction said a lot, because it showed just how far public opinion had already turned against him by that point. People were ratioing his tweet and calling out the change in his content directly. Some of the replies were basically saying, "You used to be genuinely funny, what happened to you?" While others pointed out that his old Master Uguay voiceover videos were actually entertaining before he went all in on hateful and racially charged content. And honestly, that was the core of the backlash. A lot of viewers did not hate him because he got edgy once or twice. They turned on him because they felt like he threw away the version of himself that was working and replaced it with shock content that felt ugly, forced, and desperate. That is a major difference.
Wanna do it?
What?
So, yes, it should not have been surprising that spreading offensive content made people dislike him. That part is not complicated. But what makes the story more interesting is what happened after all of this, because the ban itself was not the end of the saga. This all went down a while ago, which raises the bigger question of what Master Uguay has actually been doing since then. And the answer is a lot messier than just disappearing and moving on with life. In the months after the ban, he spent a lot of time on Twitter trying to control the narrative. He kept posting in ways that made it seem like other creators should be scared too, almost like he wanted everyone to believe that if YouTube could ban him, then anybody could be next. The problem with that argument was obvious. He kept leaving out the kind of content that led to his own downfall in the first place. He talked like this was random platform abuse, while ignoring the fact that his posts had already crossed lines that plenty of people saw coming. And behind the scenes, he was also trying very hard to get back onto YouTube without making it obvious who he was. He attempted to rebrand older accounts that already existed, swapping out the names and trying to strip away anything that connected them back to Master Oogway. The idea seemed to be that he could slide back in quietly under a different identity and keep building again. But that plan did not hold up for long. People noticed that the accounts already had subscribers. The editing style looked way too familiar, and the whole thing started connecting back to him almost immediately. So even when he tried to move in silence, the internet still caught on fast. And because people caught on so fast, those newer accounts ended up getting terminated too, just like the earlier ones. So that made the whole situation look even more ridiculous. On one side, Master Uguay was on Twitter complaining that YouTube did not care about creators. On the other side, he was clearly doing everything he could to get back on the very platform he was attacking. That contradiction was hard to miss. He could talk tough online all he wanted, but his actions made it obvious that YouTube was still the place he wanted most, because that was where the audience, money, and relevance had been. Once it started looking like he had run out of normal ways to return, he pulled what he probably saw as his biggest move left. He decided to sue YouTube over the ban. In a tweet posted on December 11th, 2024, Master Oogway said he had officially sued Google for violating his Digital Services Act rights. He added that his first court hearing would be that same week and said the case would be handled under Dutch law because that was his country of residence. He told people to wish him luck, like this was some brave comeback story instead of a long-shot legal gamble against one of the biggest companies on the planet. So now the situation had gone from messy to flat-out desperate. He was no longer just ranting online or trying to sneak back onto old channels. He was now trying to drag a billion-dollar company into court and force his way back through legal pressure. Even without being a legal expert, plenty of people could see that this was probably not going to end well for him. The move did not come across like confidence. It came across like someone refusing to accept that his own choices had led him here.
Do I get the pass, guys? Do I get the pass? Yes. Okay, do I get the pass? Can I call you my homies? Okay. My
45 viewers, chat. 45 viewers, chat. World record, chat.
Instead of reading the room, he doubled down again, and the internet noticed. Other creators started talking about the case, and most of the reaction was straight up laughter. People were not treating it like some serious underdog battle. They saw it as proof of how badly he wanted back onto a platform that he had already pushed too far while using. That is what made the whole thing hit so badly. It was not just the lawsuit itself, it was what the lawsuit represented. It showed that after everything, after all the backlash and all the bans, he still had not really changed direction. He was still trying to force the same comeback instead of facing why everything collapsed in the first place. And then, not even that long later, the next update landed. Master Oogway posted again saying he had lost a preliminary injunction in the case. He even shared a statement referring to himself as prominent YouTuber Master Uguay, which honestly made the whole thing sound even more awkward. Then, he followed it up by saying he was sad, that he had taken the loss because he really wanted to keep entertaining his fans on YouTube, but that he still might start a full trial after taking some time to think. In plain terms, he got shut down and was trying to soften the blow in public. After that, he shifted more into streaming on Twitch and Kick, but anyone expecting a major reset or some mature reinvention was giving him way too much credit, because even at 27, his content still kept circling back to the same offensive patterns and the same obsession with racially charged shock humor that had already wrecked his image before. At this point, it is honestly hard to watch. The whole thing feels less like a comeback and more like someone being stuck in the exact same loop with no real growth at all. Even the content still looks almost identical, right down to the same style, the same energy, and even the same dancers he keeps using. I found a clip of him celebrating the fact that he had 45 live viewers, and what really stood out was not the number by itself. It was the fact that he was still doing the exact same routine he was doing almost 2 years earlier, like time had completely stopped for him while the rest of the internet moved on. That is where the secondhand embarrassment really starts kicking in. There comes a point where you look at the situation and think there has to be a better way than this. At 27 years old, still repeating the same tired formula for tiny live numbers is a rough look, especially when the whole reason he is boxed into this corner goes back to choices he made himself. And the wild part is, he still seemed to think a YouTube return was right around the corner. At one point he posted, "After 1.5 years, I am back. Devil emoji, I have returned." That was tied to a new upload on a channel called Super Sigma Bros, posted only minutes earlier at the time. He clearly wanted people to believe the comeback had finally landed, but that moment did not last. When people checked on the upload, it was already gone.
This is day one of donating 1 cent to Palestine for every follower I gain. I haven't gained any followers today.
The message on screen said the video was no longer available because the YouTube account associated with it had been terminated. From what I can tell, that looked like his most recent attempt to sneak back onto the platform, and it ended the same way the other attempts did. That says everything. No matter how many times he tries to re-enter through a side door, the result keeps being the same. The platform is not budging, and he has still not found a real path forward that does not lead straight back into another wall. So with weak stream numbers, repeated channel terminations, and basically no clean way to rebuild on YouTube, what does he do next? He drifts into crypto meme coins. Yes, seriously. Out of all the places to land after a massive fall off, that is the lane he moved toward. His Twitter feed now seems packed with posts promoting his meme coin, and even the name sounds like a joke. Don't buy this coin. That is apparently the actual name. Maybe it is meant to sound ironic, maybe it is meant to be clever, but when someone with his track record starts pushing a meme coin after losing most of his audience, people are obviously going to side-eye the whole thing hard. Watching this whole collapse play out over the last few years has been wild, and calling it a generational fall-off does not even feel that dramatic. This was someone who used to look untouchable in the Shorts era, sitting on 7 million subscribers and pulling 500 million monthly views. Now, he is posting coin promos on Twitter and struggling to get even 30 likes on some posts. That is not a small drop. That is a complete wipeout of momentum, influence, and public goodwill. It is one of the clearest examples of fumbling a huge platform that you are going to see. And somehow, TikTok is still the one place where he can occasionally pull numbers. I looked through one of his more recent popular accounts and saw a video get 4.6 million views just for showing people how to put on a headset. So maybe that is the new lane now. Maybe he is doing tutorials. And honestly, as basic as that sounds, it is still a huge step up from the kind of content that dragged his name through the dirt before. That is why the whole thing feels so strange. A creator who once built his image on edgy shock posts, now getting attention from simple how-to clips, says everything about how far his brand has fallen and how badly he burned the old version of it. So now the question is whether this new and improved content is actually something people should support, or if it is just another temporary mask before the same old habits show up again. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, subscribe to the BeyondFame channel, share the video, and I will catch you in the next one.